full-blown rebuke, as I'll call it, and basically said that you think President Trump needs to turn off Fox News and, quote, read the Constitution.
Look, you know, the guys who wrote the Constitution back in the 1790s were nobody's fools. What they wanted to do is have a separation of powers between the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary so that one person could not assume enormous.
It's been a long time coming, but finally, the political earthquake we all saw coming hit live TV. Bernie Sanders, America's most vocal advocate for the working class and a political force to be reckoned with, finally had enough of Donald Trump's lies and tantrums. And when he dropped the truth bomb on national television, the resulting explosion wasn't just political, it was personal. Bernie started with an unrelenting assault on Trump's fabrications, including his baseless claim that the 2020 election was stolen from him. "Remember that a lie, Mr. President?" Bernie said, setting the stage for what would become a no-holds-barred takedown. With every word, Bernie reminded us of the stakes involved in the fight for democracy, particularly in this moment where America
then address the real issues facing the American people, the struggles that the American people are facing. We find ourselves wasting endless amounts of time discussing Trump's absurdities. Let me just give you a very few examples. Trump claimed that the 2020 election was stolen from him and that he won by a landslide. Remember that? A lie. Mr. President, we are living in an extremely dangerous time. And future generations will look back at this moment, what we do right now, and remember whether we had the courage to defend our democracy against the growing threats of oligarchy and authoritarianism.
faces threats from rising authoritarianism. As he addressed the dangerous path Trump and his supporters have taken, it was clear that Bernie wasn't just speaking to Trump, he was speaking to the American people, warning us about the future. We're heading toward if we let lies and conspiracy theories continue to dictate the narrative. But it didn't stop there. Sanders, with his usual no-nonsense approach, turned his attention to Trump's disastrous policies, the billionaire tax cuts, and the empty promises that Trump sold to the working class. Is that what you want to do? Is that what you think the American people want? Bernie demanded, calling out the hypocrisy of tax breaks for the rich, while essential services like healthcare and social programs were being cut. The facts were glaring, and Bernie wasn't going to let Trump slide by with his usual deflections. And that's where Trump, the man who thrives on deception, started to unravel. With each truth that Bernie laid bare, Trump's facade began to crack. This wasn't just another political jab, it was a gut punch to the very core of Trump's manufactured persona. Bernie pointed
out one Republican together, you and Donald Trump. I really feel like I can continue this in Congress.
You mean you're a bipartisan kind of guy?
Yes, I can build bridges. I don't build walls, I build bridges. Who do you like more, Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton?
Well, I actually think that Bernie would be easier to beat, even though he shows up a little bit better in the polls, and I might be wrong, but what I do like about Bernie is that when he loses, because the system is rigged against him, totally, just like it was rigged against me. I mean, the system is rigged. And if I didn't win by massive landslides every state, there was no chance of
the frauds Trump had perpetuated, from his fake populism to the millions of dollars funneled into his own pocket while pretending to care about ordinary Americans. Bernie didn't hesitate to call Trump out for his entire political strategy, smoke and mirrors, lies and manipulations. He ripped into the heart of Trump's act, exposing the hollow nature of a man who had built his empire on the backs of the very people he claimed to represent. As Bernie continued to lay out the undeniable truth, Trump's temper flared. Watching Trump flounder in the face of cold, hard facts was like watching a child who's been caught in a lie. His face turned beet red, and the familiar signs of a full-on meltdown began. Trump couldn't handle the heat. The tantrum began almost immediately.
Coming from Trump and many of his supporters. And what is a problem on top of that is when you got Mr. Musk owning Twitter and propagating that misinformation and those lies, it becomes a very difficult problem.
The same man who once boasted about his great accomplishments now looked like a deer caught in the headlights of truth. His usual response? More lies. He tried to deflect by playing the victim, calling Bernie crazy, and even resorting to his usual playbook of name-calling and baseless accusations. But Bernie was unfazed. He didn't need to engage in the childish back and forth that Trump thrives on. Instead, he stood firm, presenting the truth without getting sidetracked by distractions. "You are a pathological liar," Bernie called him out, and that statement hit harder than any insult. Because for Trump, being exposed for what he really is, a fraud, a failure, and a master manipulator, is the ultimate blow to his fragile ego. And let's not forget the personal nature of this attack. Bernie wasn't just calling out Trump's policies or his lies, he was pointing to the damage Trump had done to the country. Bernie reminded the public that Trump's actions,
Given the suffering that the Palestinian people have gone through under Netanyahu's brutal war, which has killed some at least 45,000, injured over 100,000, mostly women and children, the idea that the president of the United States is going to say to these people, oh, by the way, you're going to have to leave the place where you live because we are going to build something equivalent to the French Riviera.
led to real harm. People lost health care, jobs were lost, and communities were left to fend for themselves while Trump and his cronies enjoyed their tax cuts. Bernie's words hit hard because they cut through the noise. In a world filled with fake news and alternative facts, Bernie was the voice of reason, the one person willing to stand up and call out the emperor for wearing no clothes. As Trump scrambled to respond, it became clear that he didn't have a leg to stand on. His usual arsenal of excuses, Twitter rants, and half-baked conspiracy theories couldn't save him this time. Bernie had done what few others could. He had exposed Trump for the fraud he truly is. And the worst part for Trump? The entire country saw it happen. There was no turning back. No amount of lies or distractions could undo the damage that Bernie had just done.
President?
Oh, Bernie Sanders is running. Yeah, that's right. Personally, I think he missed his time, but I like Bernie because he is one person that, on trade, he sort of would agree on trade. I'm being very tough on trade. He was tough on trade. The problem is he doesn't know what to do about it. We're doing something very spectacular on trade, but I wish Bernie well. It'll be interesting to see how he does. I think what happened to Bernie maybe was not so nice.
Trump's response to this truth bomb was exactly what you'd expect. He turned to his favorite platform, Truth Social, and began his usual tirade. His followers, ever loyal, began attacking Bernie, calling him a communist and a threat to capitalism. But no matter how loud they shouted, the truth was out. Bernie had said it loud and clear. Trump was a threat to democracy, a man who tried to overthrow an election, and a person who would stop at nothing to hold on to power.
So many people who are less well off in your country voted and will probably vote again for Donald Trump.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because they are looking at the government, they're looking at the Democratic Party and saying, I can't afford health care. My kid can't afford to go to college. Everything being equal, my daughter is going to have a lower standard of living than I do. What are you doing for me? You're not doing really much. Trump is coming along. He is an atypical politician.
Even if it meant sacrificing the well-being of the very people he claimed to care about. Bernie didn't need gimmicks, slogans, or cheap tricks to make his point. He stood there with nothing but the truth, and that was more than enough. Meanwhile, Trump was left scrambling, trying to twist the narrative to fit his ego-driven narrative. The contrast between the two was undeniable. One man spoke with clarity and conviction, while the other spoke with delusion and desperation. In the end, Bernie Sanders didn't just win the argument, he exposed Trump for who he truly is. A man whose presidency was defined by lies, corruption, and a lack of concern for the people. A man whose fragile ego could not withstand the truth. As Bernie laid out the facts for all to see, the curtain was pulled back on Trump's entire charade. And as we watched Trump lose it on live TV, we were reminded that in a battle of facts versus fiction, the truth will always come out on top.